Where are we, Daniel? Right now.
Today,
Yes.
we're, I know it feels like the holodeck on Star Trek, but this is my garage.
It feels exactly like that. Beam me down.
From Indianapolis, Indiana, this is Truth Egg.
Yeah, go on.
Beam me down. Wow, that's that's a new one.
Go on.
So, yeah, we're in my garage. This is a fully finished garage with heating and air.
It's very nice.
The condition of the walls is because it gets used quite a bit for lots of things. For example, let me point you over to my dartboard and where my bike is also hanging.
Yes.
There's plenty of holes in the wall because we've actually played darts over there.
Got it.
Even
Who chose the
before our
paint
skill.
color? That's what I really want to know.
We did not choose this color. This is the color it was when we bought the house like 15 years ago.
It's lovely. I think down in Boca Raton, they have a name for this color. It's called the Boca Raton Resort. And it's actually PMS color that
Is this puce?
that they've licensed. Yeah, something like
No,
that.
I'm serious.
It's something like that.
There's like a little bit of purple, brown.
pinkish purple.
Interesting. Well, I did.
It doesn't show
Poo-poo.
dirt, which makes it great for
Yes.
a space
Yeah,
like
maybe
this.
that was how it was decided. I have purchased and color matched the color because I needed to touch up some spots. I've moved cabinets around, stuff like that.
We got a liquor bar, we got a beer fridge,
Yeah,
we got
plenty.
a man's
Anything
cave,
you wanna keep cold,
workshop, poker table, golf clubs. It's awesome. I love
Michael,
it.
did you change the world this week, or did you just sit around and do work?
I sat around and let the world come to me.
That's smart.
Good things come to those who wait.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
what I
still
said.
waiting.
That's
Although
what
I
said.
think it's only what's left over after the hustlers get theirs.
That's probably true too. We've had a crazy 6 or 8 weeks. We have more money on the receivable end of our business than I've seen in probably 2.5 years, 3 years. It's crazy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
That's the better
Yeah.
end of that deal to be on.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. No, it's good.
Now,
Everything's good.
is there something bad about the
No.
Receivables? And the reason
No.
why I ask is because sometimes that is an
Right.
indicator of
No.
some slow
Everything's
pay.
current.
Yeah, that they haven't been received.
Yeah, that they're past due. Yeah, no, that's not the case. Yeah,
Good.
it's really good.
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Numbers are crazy good. I feel like we're not supposed to be doing this well because everyone says we're not supposed to be doing this well right now, but we're doing this well
That's
right
right.
now. No, it's crazy. It's all good.
Someone
No
has
complaints.
to, right?
Yeah, sure.
Well, and
Might as well be us.
also when the economy is bad,
Yeah.
people buy something else.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe you're the something else.
Maybe. Usually when the economy starts to move sideways, we're the first to feel that on the corporate side.
Because you sell
Corporate apparel.
discretionary.
We sell corporate apparel and promotional products, and it's usually one of the things that gets
People cut back on their trade shows.
Yep. Trade shows, people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, I don't think I've ever had a business in an up economy. I have been early in. So 2008 was my first business. So
Yeah.
I started during that
Same here.
recession. I was a couple years into the Float Center when COVID hit, and that was a crusher.
Did that open in 18 or in 17?
17.
That's why it's 17.
17,
Wow.
yeah. So we had a
Wow,
couple
great
years. It was good, and things were fine. But I wonder what it would be like to be starting something in a boom.
Yeah.
Because even now I'm in the beginning of the next thing, and it's.
We'll try NFTs.
Are those coming back? Are
I
my
mean, I
pictures
hear
of
it's the
monkeys
next
going to
big
be
thing.
worth something
Wait,
now?
I thought presidential coins were the next big
Hey,
thing.
by the way,
Those are
speaking
going to be good too.
Speaking of
so
doing
bad.
well, I want to throw a shout out to a friend of the pod, Daniel Fuller.
What's going on with that?
I got invited to RoboSource's project launch.
And just to clarify, is RoboSource not a sponsor?
not a
not.
sponsor, but they could be.
Yeah, you never know.
Do we have a sponsorship team soliciting sponsors?
Yeah, our sales team is out there making making pitches right now.
Yeah,
We
and
need
if
a
they
sales
haven't
team.
if they haven't gotten to your door yet, you can always reach out to us at truthachepodcast@gmail.com.
There you go. That's right.
I don't know if anybody's checking that, but it's out there.
Do we have an account number on there and a routing number people could deposit right into our account?
Settle
if
down.
we don't, we will this afternoon.
Okay,
Trust
perfect.
me.
Perfect.
I'm sure there's a PayPal link
Go
somewhere.
back to Daniel Fuller.
Yeah, so Daniel Fuller, a part of the team at RoboSource, who all look very dashing in hunter green.
Yeah.
Fisher City Hall hosted their product launch for their processcoach.ai. Very cool product. And getting to see, I got to meet Tim Tebow, who is
heard of
just a big old sweetie.
He's a good dude.
I
man.
didn't know much. You know what? Literally the only thing I've seen or heard about him, because I'm not in the sports ball space.
Touchdown Jesus.
Well, there's that. I knew he was a man of faith. A couple weeks ago, I saw him hosting a red carpet event. I think it was specifically for young people with Down syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
And they all got dressed up and did the red carpet photography.
He's such a good dude.
You saw this on TV?
It
perhaps?
was on no. It was on a social media feed. Couldn't tell you
iPhone,
which one.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw it on
It's
my
a little
phone.
TV.
Small screen.
It's a TV.
Yeah, and he just was having the best time. And after watching him talk, and he's the primary lead investor for RoboSource, and
Did you go
Very
up
much
to him and
believe
say, hey, man, I have a podcast and we were talking about you and I didn't believe it. I called BS and then I looked it up and I realized, holy shit, this is real.
yeah, no, I that's what I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I went up to him and I said, "Listen, if you're ready for the big time."
Yeah, why don't you come become a guest on the podcast?
So yeah, doing really well. City of Fisher sponsored it. Hundreds of people there.
That's cool.
It was great. Got to meet some really interesting, wonderful people, and yeah, very happy for them.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. It's awesome.
Wow, what a great story. So, as we think about the economy doing so terrible, you've got Colored Threads
Is it
killing
doing
it.
terrible? I don't know. Maybe it's AI.
Or maybe it's doing great.
It depends
don't
on
know.
how much you watch TV.
I don't watch
Yeah.
TV, so I don't know.
Yeah, then it's great.
I don't
It feels
know
great.
what the economy is, what we're supposed to say. I mean, there's a lot of ways to measure
The economy is not returning my phone calls, so I do not know
Hasn't
how.
been calling me back.
I like
And
when
I
he
don't
doesn't call me
believe
back.
anybody who's telling me. Economists are the worst at predicting the economy.
Yeah, exactly. Using too much math.
Pork futures. That's what you focus
Too
on.
much math. Is that what you're going with? Go on.
Yeah, too much math, and they're using it the wrong way.
Clearly.
I'm telling you,
That's right.
They're getting a lot wrong. They're getting a lot
They're
wrong.
not doing it the way
in a
you-
big
Data is
way, in a
motivated.
really
They're
big
not
way.
adding the way you're supposed to in the U.S. the way we were taught. They're doing that.
That's right.
Asian math. That's probably the problem.
But the jobs reports are bad. I never know what those mean, other than that there's some data marker where less jobs are being added to the economy, whatever.
Well, and jobs were removed from the past.
Yeah.
Who did that?
I couldn't tell you, but apparently a lot of jobs reported were not actual jobs. They were potential jobs that were never actually fulfilled.
What about the jobs that a particular someone eliminated?
But again, I don't believe anybody.
I know. That's why I'm like,
That's right. Just a quick point. Yeah.
Did that?
I don't
did
know
that-
anybody
did that
not
car
working who
guy
wants to work.
Eliminate all those jobs? Are those now the jobs lost? I don't know.
Which jobs?
The jobs that Elon wiped out, the federal jobs.
I mean-
are those jobs lost? Are they are they showing up in this report now?
I couldn't tell you how the data's collected.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Now I could Google it, but
Please don't.
Right now I'm recording a
Yeah,
podcast.
please don't.
And
do that.
depending on your structure of
Google,
keywords, you will
right.
get very different results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Careful with the ums.
You will.
but go
I
on.
promise you, though, we will be able to confirm whatever bias we approach it
Well,
with.
I
that's a
can
fact.
tell you that I can find out exactly how they measure it because I would just check the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Well, that's a good way to look.
Like the
That's
source.
how they, how
that's a
they
good way to
measure
look.
it and,
Yeah.
and
And
who
that's all
they
I
get
really
their
care about.
reporting from.
That's true.
That's all I care about is like what is the way that
Because
the
the
authority on the
government
subject.
always tells the truth.
So you were saying that since the economy stinks, or it's down, and then we get you sideways. Sorry, and you said something about Colored Threads. My ears perked up, and then
Well, they're a
then I-
sponsor of the podcast.
And can I just point out, isn't it
That's
great
right.
that all of us are doing
Yes.
well
All I care about is all I
despite
care about
it's
is my-
supposed to be bad?
All I care about is my inner circle doing well. I
I barely
genuinely
care about them.
No, I do. I genuinely do. I really do.
I care about that too. I also care about the economy as a whole doing well.
Well, of course.
And the reason why I think that that's important to, not saying that everybody needs to worry their pretty little heads over it, but the
Right.
reason why I think it's important to for that to be of concern is because that's how people do well,
Right.
is by there being a system where it's the conditions where people can thrive.
Yeah.
And that gets me to think about the ways that I heard a comment the other day about America and even in other countries, we're not producing enough humans. We're not actually incubating enough human beings. The fertility rate is dropping.
It's disastrous.
So-
In the Western world, that's largely the case.
So I've heard two different thoughts by two very different people talking about this. One seems to think that we're producing too many, and the other is saying, not to worry, I'll get you to Mars.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. So,
Who are these people?
Yeah.
They sound familiar.
well, yeah, we'll leave it at that. So, what are your thoughts? Are you thinking, where do you side on this? Or do you side on it? I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't consider myself one who sides.
Okay, well, what position do you take?
I guess that's what I'm saying is I don't have a position on it. I'm curious about it because
Yeah.
one of the things that what I used to tell people all the time, everybody, I had kids at a young age, and everybody around me is 10 years after I had kids, they're trying to have kids and they're struggling, and it's such a fight. And I'm like, listen, we'll tell you if we need your help. We've already got 8 billion people. There are so many people
That's right.
on this earth. And if you look at history over the course of the last 200 years, we went from, and I'll get the numbers wrong, but it's something like 1 billion people to 8 billion in 200 years.
Okay.
The population of the earth has just exploded.
By 8
Yeah.
times, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
So then economists are saying that if and of course, Aaron knows that economists aren't reliable.
No, I was laughing with the explosion of the population. Thanks, science. Yeah, right.
But economists are saying that because, fertility rates, meaning just, people having kids, the percentage of people having the number of kids that they're having has dropped so much that it's actually causing a reverse momentum in economic output, right? So, and I guess what that means, if I understand it correctly, is that we need to have more kids. But I think the three of us are not going to do that.
Well, who?
Yeah,
So I did
I
my
am
job
not.
with the
Thank
two.
you.
That's right. The replacement theory. That's my responsibility. Wanted 3, but I'm too old now. I'm not too old. I just don't want 3 now. Also, it's not every culture. It's specific to white Western world, and that's largely cultural decisions and pressures and influences. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. That's what it's attributed to. China has an issue, but that's because they were murdering all their girls for a few generations and then realized,
Gotta stop doing that.
yeah. So they'll probably be fine. They're in the billions.
Yeah, they'll be all right.
The Muslim world is exploding, especially as it begins to move into the Western world, where I believe the average number of children Muslim people living in Western countries have is 5, and the average number of children that Western families have in Western countries is less than 1. So it's not necessarily we're going to depopulate, it's that we're going to extinct some cultures and others will thrive.
Yeah.
Because what is the fundamental human drive is to survive, make
Right.
more.
Aaron, you said science and made me think fertility 30 years ago when my friends were starting to have children, they weren't having one, they were having 2 or 3 at a time.
At a time.
at a time because of fertility.
I'm familiar with Catholic.
No. It's because they were taking fertility drugs that they were having twins.
When was this?
30 years ago.
I didn't even know there were. I know that it's more popular now. I didn't know that 30
Yeah.
years ago there were even fertility drugs, besides
Expensive.
like alcohol.
Yeah, expensive. But I would argue that part of our issue has a lot to do with us meddling with science, us meaning human beings meddling with science, trying to help people get pregnant. Instead of having one child, they're having 2 or 3 or 4, right? And so the number that you shared, Daniel, doesn't surprise me because we started kicking out children in high volume, right? Almost in production capacity, right? We're
You
maximizing.
thinking like post World War II baby boom?
I'll have to go back and look at some numbers, but I would imagine the use of fertility drugs in the last 20 years, last 25 years, has had a positive impact on the number of people that are in this country or that have been born into our country. You've got that look on your face.
Well,
Go ahead.
I want to challenge it, but
Yeah,
I'm not
please.
informed. But that's okay.
Well,
I don't think I am either.
let me give you some
Daniel's got it up.
from the
It'll
show
be good.
notes. Let me give you some information that might be useful. So, first of all, fertility rates have dropped globally due to factors including increased access to contraception and education for women, lower child mortality rates. Lower child mortality rates
That's
doesn't make sense.
contrary.
And,
Are you on ChatGPT? Because it's the least helpful.
No, I'm not. I'm in
Perplexity?
in a Google Doc.
Yeah.
And the higher cost and complexity of raising children.
Okay, but nothing about fertility drugs being used to
No, it
increase
doesn't.
No,
the
and
population.
that's such a small affluent population. I mean, I know
Could
that
be.
currently
Yeah, it could be. I don't
the
know.
average cost of using fertility drugs and,
So-
and that process is about $50,000.
That was the sound of a Miller Lite.
Not a sponsor,
Yet.
incidentally. Supposedly, the factors that are decreasing birth rates is high cost of raising children.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
The economic instability in some cases,
$20,000 annually per kid.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
job insecurity, and financial limitations.
Wait, is that 20 grand include college tuition as in saving, or is that just
it's
living
to
expense?
18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you take, I've talked about some cost and instability issues,
right.
but then when you go to those families that have more financial, they're more well off,
Right.
they have increased education and their women are participating in the workforce more in our generation and recent generations than in our parents
Sure,
and grandparents'
yeah.
generations. And therefore they're starting to have kids later.
Do you think,
Or
Which
less at all.
reduces,
it's a philosophical question that none of us can answer, but I want to throw it out there. Do you think women that want to have a family, so husband's part of the process, right? You're married, you want a family, she wants a family. Do you think women want to work versus they feel like they have to work when raising a family? Do you know what I mean
I'm
by that?
strongly opinionated on that.
Yeah, that's
but-
why I'm curious.
I think the answer is both and. I
Well,
think
it
that,
depends, yeah.
It depends is a better way of putting it.
I
think
agree with that. But
I
sure.
think that there are, and it's unfortunate that we have no women here in the room, but I think that there are a tremendous amount of women in the 70s that did not appreciate the limitations that were imposed upon them in terms of their pursuit of their career or any other choices that they wanted to make with
Did you
their
say
life.
appreciate?
Yeah, they were pissed.
Yeah.
The whole women's movement in the 70s pushing Roe versus Wade to get passed or,
Bras, no bras. Yeah.
all of that has changed the culture to where more women have, essentially demanded their rights, the right to choose the path for their life, to get a job and rise in the ranks in the ways that they want.
Congratulations. Welcome to indentured
So,
servitude. You've won.
Aaron, I want to get your thoughts on this, but I want to throw this out there. Here's what I'm really driving at. It's a couple, you choose to raise a family. Sometimes, at least it's been my experience, that the female has to go back to work to maintain the lifestyle they currently have, right? So it's a financial situation.
Yeah.
I wonder out loud that if it were not a financial situation, would the woman still want to go back into the workforce?
I
And
wish
know that's a
we
maybe.
had Lisa Whitman here, because this is
Go.
her whole point, is that she's spent the last decade or so working with women, middle-aged women in health and transition. And she said overwhelmingly women regret choosing career over family.
See, I would think that would be
Really?
true.
Now, that's, generalizations.
Sure.
Right.
That's what we do here, though, right?
Yeah, well, and
Well, that's what we
without
do.
any
That's what we
pushback,
are.
we can have any opinion.
That's right.
I have one of my favorite conspiracy theories is that feminism was a punishment for women to punish them for demanding equal rights
Yeah.
and forcing them into the role of a taxpayer.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone who's happy to have a job. People are grateful. People are grateful that they have a job. Very few people care about their work. I don't know anybody, with the exception of some entrepreneurs, that would work a job if they didn't have to.
Yeah.
I think that women have been shamed. I think they're very susceptible to social shame, especially by other women. And this is partly
Yeah,
from my
right,
conversation
right,
with,
right. I can see
with
that.
Lisa and others, that they're expected to demonstrate their capability of success in the workplace, which, as we know, for the most part, is completely meaningless and a waste of your life. It's great if you do something you love. It's great if you change the world, but almost nobody does. And oftentimes get to the point where when they realize, no, this is something that I want in my life, it may be too late. And I think that might be a big part that contributes to the explosion of mental illness in women.
So-
is not because of women, but because of having to deal with.
Yeah.
So now add to that
Additional pressure and
pressure, yeah. And well, the expectations, which are unreasonable, and every woman who wants to have a family also feels like they have to do everything else too. Right. And weirdly, sometimes they refuse to let people do things for them. And lastly, and this is a much more controversial issue, but with the issue of abortion and young women being convinced that it's somehow an empowering tool of freedom, I don't know how your soul recovers
Right.
from making that choice, especially when later you realize it's something you want and maybe no longer have access
Right.
to.
So are we? It sounds like we're saying that the nucleus. Get that out of my mouth. This conversation has a lot to do with women, right? I mean, if we're talking about.
Well, they're the only ones that get to make that
correct,
decision.
correct.
And they're the only ones that can. By the way, the fact that we've diminished the singular, most remarkable human feat
Yeah, true.
that only half of us can do, like that. I get I don't want to because I want to do something else. That's great.
Right.
Not everyone should have kids.
Right. I agree
Not
with
all
that.
kids are awesome because look at the people around you.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
But the diminishment of being a mother, being a parent, and creating the next generation.
Yeah.
Like few of us will do work so important in changing the future as raising good kids. And I look at Daniel, who
Yeah,
now
right.
has adult daughters, who both of them, I don't know Kyla as well as Corinne, but they are net positives on the world.
Yeah. Kaya.
I'm sorry.
You clearly don't know her.
I literally met her one time, and I was like,
Good job. Good
Daniel
job.
has a
Good job.
second daughter.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know where I stand on this issue or subject.
Well,
truthfully.
what do you mean by stand?
Well, I don't
'Cause
have
we're
a
just sort of
position.
wondering
I
about
don't,
it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm wondering. I'm in the middle of it all. I don't really have a position or a take on it. I have friends that have never had children, and I have friends that have had lots of kids. I grew up in a big family. Most of my friends grew up in big families, 4 or more children, right?
Catholic, I know.
Yeah, right. So you
It's
just
either
kinda-
Catholic or
right.
Mormon.
And I'm telling you, when I was 23 years old, I went down to Miami, Florida for my first professional job, and my mentor, Mark Carter, I was so taken by him as an individual. There have been very few men in my life that have walked the walk and talked the talk, like the path of virtue and honesty and
Integrity.
all that good stuff, right?
Until you met me and Aaron, of
Right.
course.
Until I met the two of you, of
It's
course.
weird that he looked us both in the eyes when he said there
As I
are a
was
few
looking into
men.
the distant hallway.
Yeah, he was either
but Mark-
identifying us as the few.
That's
or
not the
one of
vibe
us.
I got.
Mark was definitely of that ilk, like my father, and they didn't have children, and they had an amazing life. And here I am, 23 years old, and I'm looking at he and his wife, Darla. What is it? I'm 58, so I was 23. Do the math on that. That many years ago, and I'm still talking about it. They were just incredible. They are incredible people, and showed me what life could look like away from what I was born into.
Yeah,
right?
the pattern you,
Yes,
yeah.
And I really liked what I saw.
Now it's funny you say that because
went
I
after
had
that.
a very similar experience, but in sort of the opposite direction. I grew up with very dysfunctional, negative examples of family. I was, as much as I always imagined what it would be like to be a father of a loving family,
Right.
that was more of like a fantasy as opposed to a goal.
Yeah.
When Amy and I got married, we got married right before we were 30, and we were both fairly ambivalent about whether or not we were going to have kids. And we actually had about 8 years together without kids. And it was fun because we did whatever we wanted all the time.
Yeah,
We
of
went
course.
out all the time. We traveled.
Yep.
But part of what changed was that got kind of empty fairly quickly. And it was John Arnold who,
Gave you permission to have kids.
Said, go ahead,
he
boy."
offered. No,
He offered Amy or you?
yeah, sure.
Sure.
No, he told me, he goes, I like seeing you guys post about all the fun and stuff that you do. He goes, my wife and I are sometimes a little envious. He goes, but man, who I had to become to be a good dad. I don't know who I'd be if I hadn't done that. And I really respect who I am. And
Yeah,
man,
sure.
that stuck me. And you're nodding, and I know a little bit you've shared about your background, your family. You understand what's
Have you shared
required.
with us about your family? Have you? I don't
Daniel
know.
understands what's required to be a good parent because he saw parents that didn't make
Were
that
not
choice,
good parents? Yeah.
right?
It was rough, but it was
Well, what
fine.
you've said is they didn't give a shit. They kept having kids, but they didn't want to be parents. Is that
Yeah.
true?
They would never agree with that.
Well, I know they wouldn't. Nobody's a bad guy.
So, but what?
But that's what you said.
Yeah, we weren't recording at the time.
They're
What
not
out there
listening.
now?
What I said, if I can recall this moment that I don't even remember happening,
Reframe it for us, would you?
is that
I don't even remember.
my parents had a lot of kids because they wanted to have a lot of kids. They had 12 children because they wanted to.
Not Catholic, not Mormon.
And they were not Catholic, but they have similar religious beliefs that were aligned with
Okay.
some of the reasons why Catholics have a lot of kids. But what they didn't do is whether, I had to fight this in myself, having kids of my own, is they were not good at showing affection to their kids, right? So, and I feel comfortable saying that to potentially 3 or 4 listeners, maybe more, because I know that that's something that I struggled with, is I had to figure out, how do I remember to consistently tell my kids that I'm proud of them and that I want to be around them and those sorts of things, because it did not come naturally to me because I didn't get that.
You didn't have it modeled. Yeah.
And
that's a generational thing.
yeah, perhaps it is.
Not to excuse or whatever, but like that showing affection and that didn't seem to be very common.
Yeah, but I also saw other families, right? So I saw different ways that different families have different dynamics naturally, and so I did notice some things that I felt, whether it was a chip on my shoulder or not. Some
With a chip on your
differences.
shoulder?
No, that would never.
never.
Be me.
Come on, I can't see it. I don't
And
believe it.
definitely no sarcasm.
Never. So going back to all of this, your numbers, Daniel. Why do you think it spiked so high? Why do you think we've gone from 1 billion to 8 billion?
Well, mostly that's just math, right?
Right.
So,
It's multiplication.
yeah, it's mostly just
Yeah.
the pace at which, 1,000 people can, when they have 3 kids, that's 3,000. 3,000 having 3 kids
The
is
Jewish
9,000.
community
Like,
might
it's
argue
just
differently,
multiplication.
but I hear you.
So, but what I think is more notable is the degree to which that spike has happened over the course of years, and it's maybe been China. Aaron, you pointed out that China, had laws to prevent having kids because they were concerned about overpopulation, and now many developed nations are worried about not populating
Enough.
not populating enough.
And particularly populating for replacement and
Right.
largely for like a social security.
Well, what I see is, based on what I've read and some things that I have on my screen right now, is that the lower fertility rates lead to fewer young people and a higher proportion of elderly citizens, right? So if
That
you
is
have all
what
these people
happens
getting
when-
old,
yeah.
Right.
and then most of them are having few, if any, kids, then you have a population-wide problem with, like we have right now with the boomer generation going into retirement, as we in the middle age age groups are having to take care of our parents, and that becoming this huge economic impact.
and not just take care of them for a little bit because
Right.
they're not dying at 65.
they're living longer.
They're living to be 100 but retiring at 63 and a half.
And then also a smaller, lower birth rates can have, it can reduce economic growth,
Yeah, right.
which is a
Right.
tax revenue problem.
Right.
So one of the things earlier when we were talking about the explosion of it, something I learned about Indiana when I moved here was that about 100 years ago, there were counties in Indiana that lost half of their children in their early ages to various diseases. I think measles was one, or maybe a version of smallpox. But there are counties that had over half of the children under the age of 12 die during these epidemics.
Probably because they didn't take vaccines.
Because there weren't. Because they hadn't been invented.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like the smallpox Indian
I
thing.
know,
It's like
I
we didn't
know. I
even have
just had to
a
throw it
theory
out
of
there. I
germs
know.
at the time.
Right.
So once that got solved, and the habit of having enough children that some would survive till adulthood, that's the explosion we've seen in the last 100 years. Is kids stopped dying. We started getting clean water to other parts of
Yeah,
the world.
right.
I think the clean water is actually the biggest deal. Like clean water
It's a big deal.
and like not
Yeah.
shitting where you eat
Yeah. It's a big
has
deal.
changed the face of the earth. And maybe we're course
which
correcting.
I've been doing that for a few months now.
Yeah. No, our back. Yeah, anytime I see
I don't even wanna
like a
touch
half
that.
bath off the kitchen, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, the house I
Too
grew up
close.
in had a half bath in the kitchen, and those 2 rooms were the dirtiest
Well,
rooms
of course they
in
were.
the house.
Of
Oh my
course.
gosh, it was crazy.
Yeah, of course.
It was a lovely time.
How many friends do each of you have that you socialize with frequently, not once a year? So your inner circle, exclude me, that don't have children.
I feel like I'm exception. I don't have a ton of friends that aren't older.
Yeah.
So I would say the older friends do have, most of them have kids, but there's
Yep.
quite a few gay couples, and some of them have a kid from a previous, were married or
Right.
whatever. Also, a lot of the people I'm around are younger men, and they're starting to have kids.
Okay.
So this is through jujitsu
Yeah,
and
right,
things.
right.
So there's a lot of like swinging bachelors in their early 30s having.
But I mean,
having a
I'm
great
talking about
time.
your inner circle that you and Amy socialize with.
Well, he doesn't
We
do
don't.
that.
Okay.
He doesn't. I'm a normal person, so
Let's address
I don't
this
know
to
if
you.
I'm quite all the way to normal, but pretty close.
Yeah, I was going to say the issue with having small kids at an older age is that you're out of your friend groups because your
Sometimes.
peers largely had their kids younger, and now they don't have kids to manage.
Right.
And the people that are having kids at this time are usually younger, and I'm just not around them. Sorry, Daniel, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So I would say that I can think of one couple.
Well, there you go.
And they have they've had fertility issues for the longest time, and they decided the route that they were going to go to solve that, to address that, had its limits, right, on what different attempts they wanted to try, whether they wanted to adopt, all that kind of stuff. So close to nobody.
Yeah, really small. So between the three of us, it's a really small percentage.
And I would say that you're the only person, you and Lori are the only couple I know that chose.
Only straight couple I know
Yeah.
of your age group.
That chose not to have kids.
Right.
And
No, okay. I'm
and
sorry.
even those, I can, if I expand the circle
Sure.
and I go to everyone I know that I know enough about them to answer this
right.
question, if I scroll through my phone and just see who I can come up with, I bet you I could come up with someone else that maybe fits your profile. But I would venture to guess that there was a circumstance that prevented,
That precluded them from
like
having
a
children.
fertility or a
Right.
sickness or something else.
Let me add something, though. We live in a geographic region and a culture that is exceptional in that direction of traditional.
100%.
Have I ever mentioned that I grew up in Portland?
No. Where's that?
You haven't mentioned it in the last 3 to 6 weeks.
I know. Although I did hear it twice before we started recording.
Well, no, because
Go
things
on.
happened in
Yeah,
Portland.
that's right.
Very different out there.
Yeah.
And I'm generalizing, speculating a little bit.
Thank you.
Younger women out there are contemptuous of breeders. Now, also younger women out there, the majority identify as some sort of genderqueer or LGBT. It's a very popular thing to be lately in Portland's.
Yeah, they're born that way, Aaron.
Yeah, sure. All of a sudden,
It just
most of them.
happened. It just happened.
It just happened once it
I just
became
woke up today.
it became a
But on
path
that-
to status.
On that
Don't-
note, though,
So very different
I-
place. And I asked my brother about this. He's early. Well, he's probably 34, 35. I said, "How many of your peers have families and kids?" And he said, "Almost none of them."
Yeah.
Wow.
And I said, "Why is that?" He goes, "Well, not most people aren't married because relationships are weirdly fluid. I shouldn't say weirdly, just they're fluid. in-
Normally fluid.
no, but like marriage again, here's the problem with I think that advanced progressivism is that the position is whatever is must be wrong.
Yeah, true.
So our position will be whatever is the opposite of what is.
Yep.
And that takes a while to work through. Also, it's a very expensive place to live. Everyone I knew who I grew up with in that city can't afford to live in that city anymore. And they've been pushed out into the suburbs.
Right.
So it's a very different culture. And I would say you would probably find most couples under the age of 40. I would guess most don't have children.
So
Or if they do, there's a large portion that were adopted.
I talked to
Which I think is great.
So I was in a bar in New York, and this was years ago, but I was talking to somebody there at that bar. I think maybe it was the bartender, but it was a lady at the bar, and she's like, "Where are you from?" "I'm from Indianapolis," and she had a reaction to where I was from, and I was like, "Tell me, what do you think about people from Indiana or the Midwest?" And she said, well,
Indiana or Indianapolis, because those are different people.
well, she didn't split those hairs.
They are, though.
She generalized as requested.
Yeah.
And
John Mellencamp.
You might have asked her about Wisconsin. You're going to get the same profile.
she said,
true.
you guys are all married and you all have kids really early.
Yeah, see? That's
When I
pretty-
moved here, I was shocked
Yeah.
at how
And-
many people had kids at like 20.
All my friends, when I graduated, were getting married and having
Well,
kids.
and
which is the evolutionary right thing to do.
I have adult children who I think of as young until I say their ages out loud.
And then you
No, they're
in which
adults.
case
You
I'm
at that
like,
time?
oh, when I was their age,
Yeah,
I was
thank you.
way older.
Right. Right.
I was raising
You were
them.
raising children
I was
at their
actually
age,
putting
yeah.
them
Yeah.
through private school at
Yeah.
that time. So
Think about that.
But they went to a private Christian school, and they have all their peers are married with children.
Yeah.
Some of them multiple kids
Yep.
at this point. And it's just wild to kind of think
Yeah.
of these little kids that I saw running around in their,
They're now married and raising kids.
yeah, exactly. And to think of my kids doing that, it would be wild. Not because they can't.
Yeah.
They absolutely can
just
be
who they are.
mothers. It's just who they are in their life is so independent and disconnected from children, so.
Which, yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know exactly what I was going to say because something, Daniel, you just said.
Was there something about Portland? Or
So let me throw
no,
this
it
out.
wasn't.
I
And it
am
wasn't about jiu-jitsu either.
I'm the only one in my circle of friends, or even if I expand that circle outward just to social friends, that Lori and I are the only couple that do not have children here in the Midwest. When we lived on the East Coast, that was way different.
So
Yes,
and because
my grandparents were that way. They adopted later in life because my
Yeah.
grandma thought that she had to establish herself in a career to be respected, and by the time they talked about kids, she
Yeah.
was not fertile.
Yeah.
So Michael, because you had that time on the West, or sorry,
East
the
Coast.
East Coast,
Yeah,
you had exposure to a different kind of culture for
did.
a good length of time.
Yes.
But do you or Lori or both of you, to the extent you feel comfortable talking about it, ever
No.
feel like you missed out on something?
I don't. No,
I'm telling you, you haven't.
So
By
I
the
say
way,
no.
not to be judgmental, I disagree.
say
There's
no.
nothing greater.
I say
if
no
you like your
because-
kids.
Yeah. I say no because both of our families were incredibly inclusive with us with raising their children.
Well, I was going to say, but you
That-
get to be
there's the difference,
surrounded
right.
by
There's the
children
difference.
without the responsibility.
Yes.
And by the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
as having spent time as a family therapist, not all kids are awesome, and not all
Right,
parents
right,
love.
right.
Here's the kicker: not all parents love all of their
True.
children.
It's true. So
Yeah,
yesterday,
it's rough when it's like, no, I just don't like him.
yesterday morning, I had this really cool meeting with an individual that someone thought I should meet. And I happened to run into Daniel, of all things, that morning. But AT said to me, AT, if you're listening, shout out to you, that when he grew up in the Midwest, he went on to play football here at Cathedral, played at Purdue with Drew Brees, had a career outside of that. And he and I were talking about why was he so successful at doing that? And he said, because I had a father. Because I came from a 2-parent family. And I looked at him and he said, matter of fact, most of my teammates when I was in college came from a 2-parent family. I can only think of one guy on the entire team that came from a broken home. He said, today, that's a totally different story. So we're having this conversation, and he gets around to me like, how many kids do you have? I said, we don't have any children. It's like, what do you mean? Like, we don't have kids. So I said what I just said to the two of you, that we were very inclusive with those children being raised. And he said, I appreciate that, but there's no substitution for a father, Aaron. That's what he said. And I thought, yeah, you're right about that, because that's how I am with my father. I can't imagine if I didn't have my father, I would hope, I should say, that I would have an uncle like me to lean into. But I had a father. So
Well,
it
and
was
by
all
the way,
good.
every child with a father needs an uncle to go to because they can't talk to their father.
Yeah. We've gone through that. We've lived that.
I literally, and I'm using that word figuratively.
I like it when you start out like this.
I have no father. I met my dad once when I was
Right,
12.
right.
Underwhelming.
Right.
I had a couple stepdads.
Not even good looking, obviously.
No,
You get it.
actually,
You
he was.
chip off the old block.
Think Carlos Santana, but like more handsome.
Wow.
Like I
Never-
get
can't
why
imagine
Carlos
my young
Santana's a
teeny
good-looking
bopper
dude.
mom fucked him. I get it.
All right, there you go.
Don't have a dad. Didn't
Right.
have a male figure.
Right.
I had a grandfather, good man, but I spent very little time with him. And most of it was in my late teens. Wonderful person, influential. I literally don't know what it's like to have a dad. When people tell me stories about their father and they're like, you know how it is? No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what it's like to have a man around that cares.
Right.
I care, Aaron.
Thanks,
Not when he
Daniel.
was 7, you didn't. You
Well,
weren't even
when
here.
you were 7, I didn't care. You
weren't here.
The stepfather experiences that I had were very violent and relatively short term. So being a dad, part of the challenge is I feel like I'm making it up, and I'm looking to
Sure.
other men,
Sure,
and
sure.
not just fathers, but just men, and about being example, being a parent. But it's very interesting because when I've had friends who have lost their fathers, it is just a blank space. Like
Yeah.
I get losing somebody that you care about, like when someone recent
right.
friend lost his dad.
right.
I imagined what it'd be like to lose my mom, but that's different.
Yeah.
Relationships are different, and boys' relationships with their fathers
sure.
are
For sure.
crucial. Mothers too, but in a different way. So to your point, it's one of the reasons that
I get it.
Well, it's one of the things I like about you, and I even tease you about, is the unshakable confidence of having two parents that loved you. But I think a lot of who you are and your character probably came from your example of your father.
100%.
And not always in the positive. There may be in ways that your father was that you decided, I'm going to be a different kind of man.
Yeah. Yes. Of course, right?
Because even,
you
even
pick and
from,
choose, right?
Even
Yeah.
from my stepfathers,
Yeah.
they were good examples in some way. My own dad was a great example.
Yeah.
I think 90% of being a father is being present.
Yeah. Yes. I
Like
agree.
if you can do that, you can probably figure out the rest.
Yeah,
But what
that's
if you have to
like
work really, really hard? You know,
Yeah.
that's the thing that I see.
But by the way, you probably will, especially if you
Yeah.
want the mother to be able to
Well,
stay home and be a parent.
That's what happens
That's a tough pill.
with many families that I've seen. My own parents, I would say that I was subject to this as well. Is especially if you're not fortunate to land in a life that's easy,
Easier.
right? You have to work really hard to have what you think your family deserves, right? And sometimes it starts out with what they need, and then it goes to.
Well, yeah, I was going to
you
say
know,
that might be its own episode because yes,
yeah, I
but
think it-
but to provide.
yeah, to make ends meet, and then perhaps it's like I don't want just to make ends meet. I want them to have exposure to
You want them to
sports or-
thrive. You
or
want them
whatever.
to- yeah.
Or I want them to go to good colleges or have a good future. But that's not what level is not my point. My point is that there are many dads that are absent not because they are absent by choice.
They're absent. No, I understand what you're saying. They're
Yeah, I
absent
think we
by
get it.
responsibility.
They're absent because
Well
it
said.
takes a lot of time
Yeah.
to deliver.
Somebody has to go out there and stand in between the world and the family.
Yeah.
That's how I view
I would
it.
say this to the two of you, because I know your father figures were different than mine, right? We've talked about this.
Are you bragging?
Even in my situation, and what I've shared with the two of you, as a child, you always want more from your
Yeah.
parents. I want
Yeah.
more time
Well,
with my dad.
what-
I didn't think I got enough
I
time.
don't know that
I
mine
know
do.
that my kids have said dad was always working.
Yeah.
And-
I felt that way about my
And
dad.
I think that they know that they value that, but they also feel like they missed some
Oh,
dad.
yeah.
Well, until
Some
they
presence.
start a family
Yeah, yes.
and have to provide for the family,
Right.
they won't understand. And that's something I
get
think
a
that's
new appreciation.
special with men
Oh, yes.
who become adults, start their own family,
Yes.
realize the weight of responsibility, and the reason that mom got to stay home and make lunches and take us to T-ball was
That's right.
because dad decided to do
That's
the
right.
work for everybody.
Yeah.
And like that can change, but it takes a level of maturity
Yeah.
to be able to recognize
Right.
it.
I can still picture, to this day, I thought about it last night actually, my earliest memories of being a child, and they say that's 2 or 1.5, whatever it is, but I remember being 4 or 5 years old growing up in the house that we started out in, and my father coming home during the summer on his lunch hour selling Allstate insurance and hitting wiffle balls to me in the backyard in the middle of summer.
Oh,
and I would be
nice.
catching fly balls. And he was teaching me how to position and how to throw. Man, I think about that more now than ever. And I think about it because there were 2 things. My mother was outside sitting on the porch stoop watching, and my sister Trina was in the sandbox playing in the sand while my father's hitting me fly balls for an hour. And then we'd come home later that night, and we'd repeat the whole cycle all over again. And I just have this memory of how great that was. And then my mother got pregnant that year, and my little brother showed up, and shit all changed. Right? I mean, all the time that I had was
Yeah.
gone.
All-
it was
it's
never,
divided,
ever the same,
yes.
ever.
At best, it's half.
That brother fucked it all up for you
And
guys.
then another sister
and
showed up.
brothers
Oh, my
hate each
God.
other.
Yes, yes. And it's like, what the phenomenally just happened, man? I had all this time and it's gone. And I didn't even think about it until Lori and I were out to dinner with a girlfriend of hers who happens to be a therapist of all things. And she said, that's really normal. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, the oldest child always feels like they get shut out. And I'm like, I don't feel like I was shut out. She said, sure you do. And I'm like, no, I don't.
You literally
And then
just told me a story
right.
about being shut out.
Right. So I shared that. She's like,
They're
see?
also not self-aware.
Right, right. I was like, oh, damn, you're right. Go ahead, Aaron.
So
Sorry.
this is the weirdest thing.
hitting
Comedian
fly balls to your
Bill Engvall. Do you remember him? He was part of the Blue Collar Comedy Tour 15,
don't.
20 years
Who
ago.
was- what was the name?
Bill Engvall.
No, I
No,
don't.
I don't
He
remember
was
him.
not Larry. He was
That's
not.
who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
But no, I don't.
Anyways, great comedian, did very well. I mean, hundreds of millions.
No, wow.
He was telling a story about being a parent. I think they had 3 or 4 kids. His wife didn't have to work, but he traveled. He was gone 5 days a week.
Yeah.
4 days a week. And, and then there's travel on the side. And he said something really important that has been reinforced. And here's the concept. We don't retain all of our memories about our parents.
Right.
We consolidate maybe a dozen core memories. And when we think about our parents, we pull one of those few core memories. What he talked about was, I'm not around a lot, but when I am around, I damn sure make sure
Yeah, that
that
you're
I
present.
have the most presence and attention and enthusiasm. He goes, because they're not going to make memories of my absence.
That's true.
They're going to make memories of me being pissed off or telling them to leave me alone or snapping at them.
Yeah.
And instead, I'm making sure that those few days a week that I'm around them,
Yeah.
every one of those memories is positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as I've talked to, as I've gotten to know people and hear about their relationships with their parents, it's very much reinforced as a handful of things happened. And that's what they base their entire opinion of their
That's very
parents
true.
on.
Yeah, that's very
Isn't
true.
that wild?
So to be a good
you
parent,
fuck one thing up, and
you're-
then you
yeah.
ruin
Listen,
their
think about that,
entire
dads.
life.
Think about that,
you know the
two.
joke. Listen, I've built hundreds of bridges. I've put up 1,000 barns. I've built walls around every household in the
yes,
county.
yes.
But you fuck one sheep.
That's right, man. You're totally screwed, brother. I figured out early after those siblings started showing up
Ruining everything.
that if I wanted to spend time with my father, I met him where he was. And I was fortunate to be able to
Smart.
do that because he was in sales. Well, he owned a restaurant for a number of years. And then he went to work for a food service company. And I got to go on sales calls with him. And that's how I figured out I wanted to be a sales guy, right? Because I'd watch the interaction and the dynamics. And then he'd get in the car and we'd talk about it. We'd talk about the sales call. And I'm like 12 years old, maybe 13. I'm like, this is kind of cool.
Oh, it
I liked
shaped you.
Yeah, 100% it did. For sure.
I've thought about that, and this is actually a prequel for a question for Daniel. My boys have no idea what I do. Although my oldest,
I'm not sure we know what you do.
I said, what do you think I do? And he goes, like, you help people do AI? And I said, well, that's actually pretty good.
That is actually pretty good.
Because
That's what I tell people.
For the last 20 years, my mom's like, you do something with the internet?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's what's paid the bills. Daniel, being in creative work, I wonder how much your daughters, how much can you share the work that you do with your daughters in terms of them seeing you do it?
Yeah. So Kaya, the tax lawyer, has always been really interested in how the finances work. She's always interested in, like, at first it was the simple questions like, how much do you make? And I'm like, well, I'm not really going to tell you that because then you're going to just go blurbing that to people. Yeah. Or
my dad makes $150,000 a year.
That's way less than that.
It was way more. Don't lie.
Yeah. That's right. And
by the way, that's what I tell people is, what's the average? Yeah, that's what I make.
Yeah, exactly.
So
what do you make? I make that.
It started to. It started to shape into, as she gained more knowledge and insight, she'd start to ask about the structure of the finances of the company. And those were really fun questions to have. And even today, even though she's an adult and she has the ability to understand this more, I'm still scrubbing it because sometimes there are things that it's just not appropriate to share with other people. And
I have like 10 ideas, but what do you mean?
Well, so
I'm kind of with Aaron on
perfect example. She asks me the other day, and by the way, the other one's more creative focused, and she has a totally different set of questions. But so Kaya asks me the other day, she was like, how much salary do you pay yourself in relation to
she's trying
the
to
profits,
catch you on evasion
on your S corp?
So she's asking how much you pay yourself off the profit of the business.
Yeah, she wants to know
she
the
wants
actual
to know the
ratio.
distribution
She wants the
between
percentage.
salary to
She wants the percentage.
She wants to know
That's
salary versus distribution, right?
And
your answer is the correct legal amount.
And so,
3.1%.
and this it started out as a text. We ended up talking over the phone,
I go
but
50.
it started out as a text. And like, if I showed you the text, it's scrolling like this because of how much information. Because I'm like, it's not that simple.
Is she
Kaya,
investigating? No, it is.
I
But
know
is she
you're-
investigating you?
I know you're currently in tax school where there are a set of guidelines, right? And there's a set of expectations and there's stories about example cases. But basically I had to explain, like, this has, if you make 100,000 in profit versus $1 million in profit, it's two different answers. Right.
It is.
And now we have to determine, or before that, we have to determine what kind of company is it and what is the role that you're fulfilling as
And what is
an
a
employee
reasonable
of the company.
salary for the role that is in
Exactly.
my title?
I'm talking through that stuff. So I told her the principles that I use, but I didn't tell her the numbers. Yeah. And
Because she's a narc.
and she was fine with that. Yeah. But
I've gone through the same
but,
thing.
and
but
she's
she
asking
wants
'cause
to,
she's curious.
She wants to get into that detail because she enjoys that stuff.
Well, and I love the fact that she's interested in the strategy of the business, financially or however, as opposed to the, like, what exactly is it that you do here?
Yeah.
I'm going through that right now with my nephew.
Tell me more about that.
So Mac and his girlfriend, soon-to-be fiance, started a business a year ago. And
how's it going?
It really, really well. I mean, they're making money. And I get these phone calls or I get these texts like, hey, I'm thinking about buying a car. How do I write that off? Like, how can I write that off through the business?
Have the business pay for it.
Right. Or, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Can I write clothes off? I'm like, no, you can't write clothes off in the business. Then I'll get a text. What about supplements? Can I write supplements off? I'm like
health supplements?
Yeah. I'm like, no, you can't write.
Depends on the business you're in.
Right. Well, not that business.
Cocaine is not a vitamin.
So we go through these. We have these really big conversations about how you can use your business as a tool to live a better life,
Yeah.
not just monetarily. And so it's
Hang
fun.
on, in
I like that.
parentheses, what you can get away with.
Legally.
So,
Legally.
well, and it is funny that there are some things that are 100% legal.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a whole spectrum of how you approach it, right?
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, owning
A
a
boat
business,
can be a tax deduction.
owning a business is an advantage.
That's a red flag, brother.
No, it is, but it
I
can
haven't
be.
even touched that. I play in the gray more than anyone at this table, and I am telling you, I would never put a boat on my tax return ever. Ever.
Only because I read a story about somebody who pulled it off,
Yeah,
and for good reason.
I've seen it
because
but I
it
wouldn't
was
do it.
it was a real estate business for island properties.
Oh, there you go. So he's
Yeah.
using it as a taxi service to get people
Exactly.
to. Yeah, that makes sense.
But they're like, no, you can't write off $1 million boat.
Oh,
And they're like, yeah, I can.
So here, Mackie calls me up and he's like, hey, you know that Jeep you told me not to buy that I bought? And I said, yes. He said, I think I want to sell it. I think that's a great idea. What do you want to do? Well, there's some great leases on Teslas. And I said, yes, there are. I said, and you can write that off. How do I do that? He said, well, you get a lease, put it in the business name, and you're going to pay yourself on mileage. What do you mean I'm going to pay myself on mileage? Well, it's 71 cents a mile right now.
Yeah,
You're
I
going to
gotta
take your
figure
mileage
this
and
out, by the
take
way.
20% of what you drive in a quarter, use that for personal miles. The other 80%, the business is going to pay you 71 cents for those 80% of miles that you drove. He looked at me, starts doing the math. He's like, shit, I'm going to make money. I'm like, you're going to get money from your business that's going to come as a pass-through that is going to be non-taxable, right?
Yeah, that's the part. People are like, oh, it's just a deduction. It's a write-off. It's like, that doesn't mean you get money.
That's right.
It means
That's
that
right.
you don't have to pay
That's
money
right.
later.
So my whole goal with the business has always been from day one in anything I've done is reduce taxable income to the lowest possible number. I never talk
I am
about
familiar with
how much money I make. I talk about how much I don't pay or
By the way,
reduce my taxes, right?
My goal has always been to have the least amount of personal income possible.
Hell yes.
You're doing great right now.
I'm actually not. I need to either.
No, you inherited money. You're not doing great.
I need to take it down.
That's right.
I either need
Yeah.
to take it
That's
down or
right.
double it, but I'm in a really bad spot.
This podcast has gone side.
Sounds like it's time for us to sign off then.
It is. It's good stuff.